The line at the door had diminished, so they set out across the parking lot and went in. They found 3 seats at one of the long folding tables by the wall, which suited Lily. He wanted to be as invisible as possible tonight. Tracy put her purse down and immediately went over to talk to a group of girls a few tables over. By her animation, he could tell she was still upset about the conversation in the car. All in all, the evening went well. He had to follow Tracy twice when she tried to sneak a boy into the ladies' room with her, and fend off a few 15 to 16-year-olds that asked him to dance. He listened to Zoe and a couple of girls that joined her at their table discuss the sexual prowess of various young boys in the room. He began to realize that girls weren't nearly the prudes he'd always thought. Between the 3 of them, they could account for the lack of virginity of about 80% of the girls in attendance and almost all of the boys. No one had figured out that he was a boy, even in the gaggle in the ladies' room when he went, and a couple of the adults thought he was a chaperone. Thank God for the voice training that afternoon, he was able to pull that one off. There were even a few kids a couple of grades behind at St. Leos that gave him the eye, but no sign of recognition. Finally, it was 11:15, and he gathered the cousins up to head home. Once in the car, Zoe and Tracy started talking over each other in their critiques of the boys and girls they had seen there. He blushed a bit when Tracy told him about overhearing a catty conversation between 2 of the younger female chaperones, dissecting his appearance. She repeated that "I bet she's got falsies online" a couple of times for his benefit. Lily was a bit more confident he could survive the afternoon at the mall with Vicky. He pulled the car into the garage and the 3 of them went in. The 3 hours they were gone wasn't wasted time for Gertrude of May. They discussed the possible courses his transition could take and concluded that if Vicky had her way, he would beg to stay in a dress. The rapid-fire heaping on of more and more humiliation seemed to have served its purpose well, as the only hint of backlash all day was the Rentonen comment, and he tried to make it look like a joke instead of the scathing commentary it would have been a week earlier. Even Zoe seemed to have warmed up to the new Lily quite a bit, and it would be nice if that worked out, giving Lily a girlfriend to help her through the ups and downs when the hormones fully kicked in. That was going to be the dicey part, coming up with plausible explanations for the changes as they took place. The 3 of them came in much like one would expect from 3 girls just home from the first dance of the summer. They were talking over each other and interrupting with "No way, Ann, I don't care, she's still a slut" a lot. Tracy was a little put off that some of the girls called her outfit frumpy and hinted she might not be old enough to dress herself yet. "How was your evening, girls?" Gert asked as they came into the living room. "Terrible," Tracy said. "I had 2 vultures circling me every time I got within 10 feet of a boy, and Lily was such a wallflower. All she did all evening was run my friends off." Lily smiled broadly, thinking, "I got to ruin her night and I'll get brownie points for doing it." "Thank you for taking such good care of your cousin," Lily May said. Tracy turned livid. "Mom," she said, and turning on her heel, added, "Well, I guess I'll just go to bed." Zoe gave her mom a rundown on some of her former students and how they carried themselves. "Oh, and Julia is going to stay a girl through high school, Mom," she said. "Julia, the one with the dynamite figure, isn't really a girl?" Lily asked. "She was just one of 5 I saw this evening, Lily," Zoe replied. Lily rolled his eyes. What was this world coming to, and more importantly, how come he hadn't realized it before? Roberta, the kind of shy one with the cute smile, was one of the girls he had tried to hit on at school. She had come in as a freshman 2 years ago in a skirt, and she was really a boy? There were the 2 tall girls that only danced with each other, and the kind of homely one in whose bed Tracy had lost her virginity 2.5 years ago. "This is more than I can handle," Lily said. "I'm going up to bed." Lily left after a couple of good nights to his aunt and mother. He undressed and put on the black negligee that he had worn the night before, but this time without the diaper. With the lights out, he laid in his bed cupping his breast and trying to sort out everything that had happened that day. He was so engrossed in his thoughts that he didn't hear Zoe come in. "Tracy is fast asleep, Mom's gone home, and Aunt Gert was headed for bed, so it's just you and me now." "Ready for your reward?" Zoe whispered in his ear. "We can't have sex, we're cousins," he replied, startled. "And we won't," she said as she climbed into the bed and under the covers next to him. "She's unclothed," he thought, as she guided his hands across her breasts and down her stomach. "Boys in panties drive me wild," she said. She kissed him, easily the most passionate kiss of his life, as she started rubbing him through the panties. It got the desired reaction. She then pulled his excitement through the leg hole of the panties and took it between her legs, skillfully avoiding his natural urge for penetration. While doing this, she put her pointer into his mouth, and he began to suck on it, gently, and then more urgently, mirroring the urgency she expressed in rubbing his member in her crack. When she felt she had him sufficiently aroused, she turned around on him and took his hand. She guided him to her clitoris and told him to gently rub it. After she had coached him for a couple of minutes, he was doing it correctly. She was getting aroused very quickly herself as she started to stroke his excitement with her tongue. She took him fully into her mouth and went down on him until his whole penis was engulfed. She rapidly moved her mouth up and down on him, keeping pressure on him with her tongue while he was inside her mouth. It took just a few minutes until he started spasming and ejaculated into her. She swallowed this and started anew, with even more passion, as his fingers finally found their way into her vagina. In another few minutes they came together, both trying hard to suppress their moans of pleasure. Lily felt a contentment he had never experienced before as she licked him clean and put his shrinking member back inside the panties. She then straddled his chest and asked him to clean her off with his tongue. At first he hesitated, then he reached around her hips and pulled her to his face. Though inexperienced, he managed to work his tongue into her folds and swallow the juices she had emitted. He felt totally exhausted, and Zoe laid back down next to him and pulled him to her bosom. He quickly fell to sleep. When she felt he was fully asleep, she pulled his face from between her breasts and tiptoed back to her own bed. The post-sexual buzz was ringing in her ears as she started to doze off. "Was she any good?" Tracy asked from the other side of the bed. The first 2 hours after Zoe left, Lily slept soundly, devoid of any dreams and lost in post-sexual exhaustion. Then he moved into a state of lighter sleep where images and scenarios danced through his head. In each case he was dressed as Alan, only to have his wardrobe transform whenever he met a girl. She would tell him what pretty panties he had on even though he were fully clothed. She would then put her hand between his legs and tell him how nice his feminine organ felt. She would put her hands in his blouse and pull out a breast, and it was a real one, not the forms that were glued to his chest. He would blush and cup them in his hands to show off how well-formed they were. The girls would smile back and tell him how pretty and desirable he was as a she. He awoke with one hand cupping his breast and one hand in his panties, stroking the excitement that the dreams had produced. If girls preferred other girls, and boys like Michael only liked other boys, what did that make him since he liked girls too? The events of the night came flooding back to him. He smelled his fingers and realized that wasn't a dream. First Vicky, then Zoe, seemed to get so aroused by him in panties and a bra. At the dance, he had completely failed to notice that the 5 girls were really boys, and that except for the 2 that would only dance with each other, they seemed to be the most popular selections for girl-to-girl dancing. What was going on in the world, and why did he not ever realize it before? Surely he would have noticed so many sons becoming daughters at church, but he didn't, and all the ones Zoe had told him about, he had seen there. Then there was Zoe. How was that going to play out? As he recalled the details of their encounter, he felt cum running all over the hand in his panties as he shuddered in another orgasm. He jumped out of bed and ran to the bathroom, happy as he hurried by that his cousin's door was shut. He finished himself off and peed, then cleaned the sticky mess as well as the dried-on goo from the night before off his panties with a damp cloth. As he stood in front of the mirror, he noticed the fresh look in his face and exposed skin. He raced back to his room and got a clean set of pajamas out. After putting them on, and covering it with the pink robe, he brushed out the hair of his wig and tried to regain his composure. He looked somewhat better, but still felt that anyone who saw him would immediately notice the just-laid look in his skin. He went to the makeup bags on his dresser and rummaged through them until he found the daytime powder foundation. That helped make him look a little less guilty, he felt, so he headed down to get some coffee into his system and try to focus on something besides intimacy in his mind. It was still early, so no one else was up yet as he went to the kitchen and started the coffee. He watched as it dripped through and filled his cup as soon as enough had passed into the pot. The glow of intimacy was slowly replaced by the rush of caffeine into his system, and just in time. His mother came out of her room sniffing for the aroma of fresh coffee. They shared coffee in silence until the two girls came down. They both gave him knowing glances as they passed him into the kitchen. Oh-ho ran though his brain, and his face flushed in response. Both girls returned to the dining room and sat down with glasses of juice and started in recounting the events at the dance. Finally, Gert was awake enough to ask if everyone was ready for her to fix some breakfast. Getting nods and positive mumbles in response, she headed out. After she left, Zoe moved closer to Lily and whispered, "Tracy knows," in his ear. The color drained from his face. Having intimate moments with Zoe was already confusing and complicated. The thought of that information getting out was daunting. With the biggest gossip in the family having that intel, it could spell disaster. There was nothing he could do about it now, as he didn't have anything to blackmail her with, or did he? There was the incident with the 4 boys that might come in handy. His mother's voice calling from the kitchen interrupted his thoughts. He went out and grabbed plates and silverware for the 4 of them as she requested and set the table. His mother followed with a platter of scrambled eggs and sausages. The delicious aroma made him realize just how hungry he was. He piled his plate high with eggs and sausage until he noticed, out of the corner of his eye, that Tracy was staring at him intently. "You're not pregnant, are you?" she asked. "No," he replied. "Sorry, just wondered." "It looked like you were eating for 2, she shot back. "No more than usual," he defended. "A girl has to watch what she eats, Lily." "The only reason to get fat is if she's pregnant," Tracy said with a grin. She had gotten the reaction she wanted. Fear and guilt were evident on his face. "You're going to need help getting ready for your big date, and I'm just the girl for the job," she continued. "I already know what I'm going to wear anyway," Lily said. "What are you wearing to church?" Zoe inquired. "The yellow dress and shoes," Lily replied. "Good choice. We'll help you get dressed. We want our special girl to look her best today, don't we?" Zoe said. Lily realized this was a setup so they could talk. Burying his mind in how to cope with the situation, he simply said, "Okay." He finished the rest of his breakfast in silence, avoiding eye contact with anyone, especially Tracy, whose gaze made him feel like a roast in a butcher's case. As he felt the tightness in his stomach, he remembered the corset and realized he shouldn't have eaten so much. Without thinking, he stepped out onto the porch to grab the Sunday paper. He quickly darted back inside after a neighbor walked by, and Mrs. asked, "Alan, is that you?" He suddenly realized he was standing there with his robe open, the pink baby doll nightie on full display for them and anyone else passing by. He settled onto the couch and began to browse through the paper, hoping to digest some of his breakfast before it was time for the corset. His focus was broken by a call from upstairs. The girls had gone up after finishing their breakfast and apparently took it upon themselves to get things ready for him. With his mom urging him to start getting ready, saying it took time for a girl to look her best, he began the trek up the stairs to what felt like certain doom. He entered his room to see what had been laid out and what else needed to be done. Tracy came in, took him by the hand, and led him to the bathroom. When he arrived, the tub was already full, and it smelled delightful, like a garden. "Tracy, you're only 12, he said as her hand lingered a little long between his legs when she started to undress him. "Besides, I can take my own bath," he added. "I get mine, or I tell," she answered. "You're what?" he said, startled and feeling trapped. "My shot at the new slut on the block," she said. "Saved by Zoe." She came in and started to remove the hairpins holding Lily's wig in place. She was done removing it. She handed it to Tracy. "Go brush this out and fix the curls while Lily washes up." We don't have time for your games this morning. We'll talk about it tonight. Meanwhile, behave yourself, she said. Tracy pouted, but took the wig and set out to Lily's room, realizing her sister was right. Lily finished undressing and quickly slipped into the rose-scented foam of the tub. Happily, he felt protected by the thick bubbles. After lingering in the tub until his skin started to pucker, Lily realized he had to get out, and it would be better to do it before Tracy got back. Zoe held the towel for him and patted him dry as he tried to wrap it around himself. We're all girls here, you don't have to be shy, Missy, she said as she pulled the towel away from him. Jealousy? His two cousins fighting over who was going to do it to him first. What about Vicky? This is so different than anything I ever expected from girls. He took the towel back and wrapped it around his waist. No, that's not how you do that, she said as she took the towel and wrapped around herself and lapped it over between her breasts to keep it up. She gave him the towel back, and he put around himself the way she had. This is better, he thought as he headed for his room to get dressed. As he entered the room, he saw Tracy standing unclothed in front of the mirror with her legs spread and her finger in herself. Come here, she said, pointing to her crotch with her free hand. He just stood there staring at her, not knowing what to do or say, when Zoe came in behind him. Picking Tracy's gown off the floor and tossing it at her, she said, "Get this on and get out, I can see you'll be a little help." Lily hurried over to the bed, picked up the yellow lace panties, and put them on. They didn't cover much, but it was at least something. He dropped the towel and put the matching bra on with his back to his cousins. He didn't look at them, but he could feel their eyes almost burning holes in his back. He put on the corset, thankful that it hooked in front, and reached for the yellow slip. Wait, Zoe said. I told you we would need to tighten that a couple of inches for you to get the dress zipped. Tracy finally left for her own room as Zoe came over and untied the bow of the yellow satin ribbon that was the lacing. She managed to tighten it a couple of inches on her own, but when she checked the waist of the dress against Lily's waist, she realized she needed at least another inch. She called for Tracy as she wrapped the lace from one side around her hand. She was happy to see that her sister had at least gotten into a bra and panties, as she took the other lace and wrapped it as her sister had. On three, Zoe said. They pushed against his sides for leverage as they pulled the laces. Lily almost lost his breakfast as the corset tightened another inch, but he did lose his breath. Zoe held her hand up for Tracy to stop pulling. She got the dress and checked again, it was close, but they shouldn't take a chance. She rewrapped the lace, pushed against his side, and nodded at Tracy. It took quite a bit of effort, but the corset finally moved another half-inch toward joining in the back. She took the lace from Tracy, knotted it, and put the bow back in the ribbon. Lily was still trying to breathe. Shallow breaths, Zoe told him, as Tracy left again. Then get rid of this before you put the slip on, she added, stroking his penis through the panties. He looked for the gaff, but it wasn't on the bed. He went to his dresser, and there it was, still in the drawer. He took the panties off and pulled the gaff up his legs, but when he tried to tuck the semi-excited appendage back, it hurt and wouldn't go. This is your fault, he said to Zoe. Wait, I'll be right back, she said, and left the room. She came back in a couple of minutes with a washcloth wet with cold water. She wrapped it around his penis, which instantly shriveled to almost nothing. There, she said, as she picked the towel off the floor and handed it to him to dry himself. His male part between the thighs had already withdrawn into him, reacting to the cold water, so he tucked himself and adjusted the gaff. He remembered then that the panties went over the garters, so he sat and put on the stockings. These were the white ones of real silk, not nylon. He smiled as he felt the sensation against his legs when he pulled them up. He stood and attached the garters, then put the panties back on. Tracy stood in the doorway, clapping her hands. Very good. You're learning, she said, stepping back into the room. You'd better put some clothes on too, she added, glancing at her still unclothed sister. She'll hurt herself if you don't. With that, Zoe left, and Lily slipped on the slip before stepping into the dress. He pulled it up and put his arms through the half sleeves. Adjusting the bodice, he looked over at Tracy and realized he wouldn't be able to reach the zipper with the corset pulled so tight. She moved closer and leaned in to help pull up the zipper. It was snug at the waist, but eventually went up with a little effort. "You're mine tonight, bitch," she whispered in his ear as she finished zipping and hooking the eyelet. "You're still only 12, he replied. "Old enough to bleed, old enough to breed," she shot back over her shoulder as she left to finish getting ready. He picked up the shoes from the floor, grabbed the wig and the bag of day makeup, and made his way to the stairs as quickly as the corset allowed. He was out of breath by the time he reached the bottom, just in time to see his mom heading up the stairs to check on what was taking so long. "Good," Lily said, relieved to see his mother dressed and ready. "I was hoping you could help me finish up. Zoe and Tracy are still getting dressed." "What's taking so long?" she asked, nodding as she took the wig from him. "It took some work to get this corset right," he replied half-heartedly. "That'll teach you to watch what you eat before going out," she said, guiding him to a dining room chair and motioning for him to sit. She quickly pinned the wig into place and brushed it out. Taking the bag from him, she emptied its contents onto the table. She applied a light powder foundation, followed by gold eyeshadow and brown mascara. Then, she added a light coat of gold glitter to the flat of his cheeks and chin to highlight his bronze-stained cheekbones. "Grab your purse, put on your lipstick, and you'll be ready to go, sweetie," she said, heading to the stairs to call for the girls to hurry. He did as instructed, then went to the bag Vicky had left for him. He pulled out a triple-braided gold necklace and matching earrings, handing them to his mom. She smiled and nodded, taking them from him and putting them on. That was the finishing touch. Any mother would be proud to take a daughter as beautiful as he was to church. Finally, the girls came down, and everyone was ready to go. Gertrude complimented them on how pretty they looked as she herded them toward the door. "Lily is the pretty one today, look at that dress." Zoe teased, feigning jealousy, causing everyone to giggle except for Lily. He felt his day was going from bad to worse. What would happen when they got to St. Leo's, with the entire neighborhood gathered for Mass? They set off for the 6-block walk to church. The sidewalk was bustling, as most families lived within a mile and walked to church when the weather was nice. Driving didn't offer much advantage since St. Leo's had a small parking lot that filled up quickly. By 9:30, it was usually full, requiring anyone arriving late to park another block and a half away at St. Catherine's School for Girls or on the street if they could find a spot. He felt his hips swaying and the skirt brushing against the back of his knees as he struggled to keep up in the 4-inch spike heels. "I must be giving everyone behind us quite a show," he thought, blushing at the memory of Zoe's comment from Friday. There was nothing he could do about it, though, and he knew his calves would be protesting by the time they reached the church. They weren't used to being stretched like this, despite yesterday's training. High heels were made for standing around, not walking, he decided. As they approached the church, he could see a crowd gathered on the large sidewalk in front of the cathedral and wondered what was happening that was keeping people outside instead of going in and sitting like usual. Finally, they arrived and could see what had attracted so much attention. It was Stephen. He stood there with his parents, wearing that pink party dress with crinolines making the skirt flare out, and shiny pink strappy shoes over white tights. His short hair was gathered into bunches, tied with pink satin ribbons. Aside from heavily applied lipstick, no real effort was made to feminize him. He looked like an obvious boy in a dress, crying in front of everyone. "At least my mom had the decency to make me look like a girl," he thought as they approached. When Stephen saw how pretty and appropriate Lily looked, he started to wail loudly. Lily appeared as a lovely young lady, while Stephen looked like a freak show, a 5-year-old freak. Gertrude and Mrs. McMurtry chatted for a few minutes, smiling at each other as they headed up the stairs where May was already standing. After checking the girls over, May led the way into the church and up to their usual pew. A few people noticed Lily and made the connection due to his mother's presence. He could tell because their smiles were different from those of others. They settled in, arranging purses and missiles when Fiona and Vicky approached, asking if they could share the pew this morning. Gert glanced at her sister and nodded. The others slid down to make space, and Vicky scooted around Lily so they could sit next to each other. As everyone got settled again, a commotion near the back of the church erupted, followed by applause. They stood to see what was happening and joined in the applause as the McMurtrys made their way up to their usual pew, with Stephen/Stephanie crying loudly, firmly held by his mother's hand. The noise and muffled murmurs eventually subsided as the service began. Vicky sat next to Lily, touching him, sharing his book, and holding his hand whenever the opportunity arose throughout the service. When the service concluded, the congregation was dismissed row by the ushers. Being near the front, Gertrude, May, and their little group of girls were among the earlier departures. As was customary, families gathered in small clusters at the front of the church to exchange pleasantries with members they hadn't seen all week. Much of the gossip centered around the spectacle at the beginning of the service, and many families went over to chat with the McMurtrys or get a better look at their new daughter. Several more approached to be introduced to Lily, many not recognizing him until his mother spoke up. They were much more polite and reserved than the others and complimented him on his appearance and demeanor. He was just relieved that something else had shifted the focus away from his own transition, but he couldn't help but notice how much nicer the other families were toward him, especially the women. Under Vicky's watchful eye, most girls his age kept their distance, even when their parents were chatting with either Gert or May. As the crowd dispersed, Gert asked Fiona and Vicky if they wanted to join the family for their regular Sunday brunch at Murphy's. Fiona excused herself, as it was her weekend to open the store, but Vicky said she would be honored. The family headed for Murphy's, with Vicky and Lily walking hand in hand and Gert and May following behind, smiling at each other. The cousins were in front, barely watching where they were going as they discussed Stephen. Mr. Murphy was there, as usual, holding the door open for the ladies without gentlemen. He smiled broadly as the group entered and winked at Lily. They headed to their usual table, and once again, Vicky held Lily's hand possessively as young Helen Murphy brought a sixth chair over. Helen typically served them on Sundays, but this morning, her usual scowl was replaced with a bright smile as she set glasses of water out for everyone. She went out of her way to make eye contact with Lily as she moved around the table, an action not missed by Vicky, who shot her a glare that seemed to say, "She's mine." Lily felt a bit confused by Helen's attention, as she usually made a point of ignoring him, but he was pleased by the acknowledgement. Another girl who seems to like boys in dresses? This is all very strange, he thought. What do you two have planned for the afternoon? Gert asked Vicky after Helen left with their orders. First, we planned, Vicky began to say, but the commotion caused by Stephen's entrance with his family drowned her out. It seemed the entire restaurant was applauding and cheering as Mrs. McMurtry walked through the room, holding Stephanie's hand aloft as a means of introduction. Once they were finally seated, Zoe approached their table and said, "You look absolutely divine this morning, lass." Then she leaned closer to Michael and whispered, "Jealous?" Stephen sat with his head down, staring at his lap, while his mother lifted his chin and raised his head. "A proper lady acknowledges a compliment, young lady." "I wish you would stop saying that." "I'm not a..." Stephanie started to protest before her father backhanded her, silencing her. "You'll have to excuse her, she hasn't had proper training yet," Patty McMurtry remarked to Zoe while casting a glance at her mother. Having enjoyed her fun and gotten Stephen into trouble, Zoe returned to her chair. Tracy began to rise for her turn, but their mother placed a hand on her shoulder, signaling her to stay put. Once the chatter subsided, Vicky resumed, "First, we plan to go to just girls so Fiona can help us finish her wardrobe now that she's seen Lily all made up." Gertrude and May both nodded in agreement. "Then we'll probably head to the Cineplex at the mall for a movie, followed by shopping to round out her supply of essentials. We also need to find her a pair of yellow shoes with lower heels, since these are really taking a toll on Lily's legs and feet." "Good idea. I noticed she was wobbling a bit by the time we got here," Gert replied. Turning to Lily, Vicky kissed him on the cheek and said loud enough for Helen to hear, "You've been the perfect lady today, and I'm so proud of you." "Victoria, you'll be the ideal companion for her on her first outing," May added before they all began to eat. Amidst bites, the conversation shifted to the day's events and how a 4-week stint at St. Catherine's would improve Stephanie's demeanor, though not much could be done about her appearance. With a square face, prominent chin, and wide nose, it seemed unlikely that even the best efforts could make a difference. Zoe and Tracy exchanged quiet giggles, reminiscing about what happened to special girls who couldn't present well when caught alone by some of the rougher boys in the neighborhood. As long as Lily remembered her training and didn't act foolishly, she would probably be fine. She looked more like a girl than most of the others and was developing the poise that accompanied being a pretty girl on display. Vicky was just the person to nurture that. As they wrapped up their meal, Vicky noticed Lily squirming in an obvious "I need to pee" dance. Without saying a word, she handed him his purse and took him by the hand toward the ladies' room. "I can't go in there," he protested. She read the sign aloud, looked him up and down, and said, "I honestly don't see why not. But don't worry, I'll stand guard for you. It's better than the puddle you're about to make on the floor." Lily couldn't argue with that logic, and her gentle tone eased his anxiety. "Remember to sit," she whispered as he entered the stall. After some difficulty preventing his skirt from getting wet, Lily finally managed to get settled. When he emerged, he found Vicky touching up her makeup and motioning toward his purse, indicating he should do the same. As he rummaged for his lipstick, Vicky pulled him in for another gentle, sensuous kiss that left him weak in the knees. She then smiled and wiped her red lipstick off his face with a tissue before applying his pink lipstick. Zoe watched with a hint of jealousy as Vicky, with her petite waist and rounded hips, led Lily back to the table. "Ha ha, I got her first," Zoe thought but didn't dare say aloud. May settled the bill over Vicky's protests that she should pay for her own meal and excused herself for a moment. She approached the McMurtry's table and fixed Stephen with a cold stare, saying, "I'll see you at school in the morning, Stephanie, and I hate for my girls to be tardy." Stephen looked back with sheer terror in his eyes. As the rest of the family gathered their things to leave, Lily couldn't help but notice Helen's smile and the look in her eyes as they headed for the door. Outside, Vicky thanked May again for the meal and explained that she would return in half an hour with her car to pick up Lily. She squeezed his hand firmly, kissed him on the cheek, and walked away with the exaggerated wiggle she'd shown the day before. She was quite a sight, with her skirts swaying and the gentle breeze playing with her long red hair as she walked away. Not bad for a man, Zoe thought. Just wait until Lily finally figures it out. The families parted ways, with May and the girls heading home and Lily and his mother returning to theirs. "My God, do my legs ever hurt?" Lily thought to himself. Noticing his obvious discomfort, Gert said, "When you get home, switch into the white flats you wore last night. I'm sure Victoria won't mind until you have a chance to get some other yellow ones." "That sounds like a plan, they match my purse," Lily replied, nearly limping by now. Finally, they arrived home, much to Lily's relief. He immediately kicked off the heels, sank into the nearest chair, and rubbed his calves vigorously, trying to ease the soreness before he tackled the stairs for his other shoes. "Why do girls put themselves through this?" he asked his mother. "So we can look our best. Besides, it won't be so bad once your legs get used to the heels," she replied. "I should have worn the white ones to church," Lily admitted. "It was actually better to wear the yellow ones since you'll probably do as much walking in the mall, and if you fell this morning, there were 4 of us to catch you," she explained. "Now run upstairs, grab the other shoes, and touch up your makeup before Vicky arrives." He complied, enjoying the way the silk of his stockings felt against his calves as he climbed the stairs. He also noticed how much cleaner and fresher he felt in the dress compared to the suit and tie he typically wore to church in the summer. If it weren't for this corset, this wouldn't be so bad, he thought. Besides, Vicky seems pleased with how pretty I look, as he admired the reflection of the lovely girl in his bedroom mirror. "Hurry, sweetheart," his mother called from downstairs, breaking his moment of self-admiration. He hurried down to touch up his makeup, and when he emerged, his mother handed him a wad of bills. "Here, put this in your purse for shopping today. $300 should cover you nicely." He nearly stumbled in shock. His mom had never entrusted him with so much money before, especially not to buy girls' clothes. "You look so sweet and radiant today. I hope you'll be a lady and not offend Vicky," his mother said. "Don't worry, Mom. She's the best thing that's happened to my love life so far, and if she wants to take me out in a dress, I'll happily oblige," Lily replied. "I do have one question, though," he added. "What is it, honey?" Gert asked. "My chest and, the pointers feel hot and tingly. Could I be allergic to the glue you used for these?" he said, glancing down at his chest. "We'll check that out tonight," she said just as the doorbell rang. Lily opened the door to find Vicky entering. He took a couple of steps back, awestruck. She wore a Kelly green dress that fell just below her knees, with a full skirt made of double-layer polished gabardine. The bodice was a single layer, just sheer enough to reveal the pattern of her lacy green slip underneath. Mid-length sleeves came down to her elbows, adorned with green satin cuffs and white satin piping at the cuffs, skirt hem, and deep V neckline. A white satin sash cinched her waist, and she completed the look with matching green satin shoes featuring tiny white bows on the tops. Her long red hair flowed freely, cascading down to a delicate flip at the points of her breasts. The quarter-sized jade heart of her necklace rested perfectly against her porcelain white skin, complementing her matching bracelet and earrings. Lily was speechless, and so was Gertrude. Neither could recall having seen a prettier girl. Vicky reached out, took Lily's hand, and gave him a light kiss on the cheek. Her fingernails, bright red and seemingly an inch longer than before, matched her lipstick. "I take it I meet with your approval?" she asked, breaking the silence. "Wow!" Lily finally exclaimed, "You are the most beautiful girl I've ever seen." "I completely agree," Gert added. "You look absolutely stunning too. We'll be the prettiest pair of girls at the mall, so grab a club to fend off the boys," Vicky teased. That earned a laugh from everyone. As they prepared to leave, Vicky turned back toward Gert, asking, "Is there a specific time I should have her back?" "No, take your time and enjoy yourselves," Gert replied. They headed out, walking hand in hand to Vicky's car. She opened the door for Lily, watching to ensure he got in properly without revealing his underwear or wrinkling his skirt. Once settled, she climbed in herself. Vicky's driving was much more aggressive than his mother's, and she shaved several minutes off the travel time to the plaza. As they drove, Vicky shared that she had previously worked at that store until Fiona became the manager, at which point she transferred to a location in the north suburbs. "I still get my discount at any of the stores, so relax and have fun," she said. The idea of going shopping for girly things dressed as a girl made him visibly anxious, although he was confident Vicky would fend off any unwelcome intrusions from other girls. She had kept a protective watch over him at church and Murphy's. "Come on now, it'll be a lot of fun, you'll see. It'll be a much different experience than your first trip there, so relax before I have to bite you," she urged. "My first visit here wasn't exactly enjoyable," Lily replied. Finally, they arrived at the parking lot and found a good spot. "Let's go to the shoe store first. Those shoes are a bit plain for such a pretty dress," Vicky suggested as they got out of the car. "This time you get to pick what you like, it's more fun," Vicky said as they entered the store. One of the clerks approached them right away, since the store was fairly quiet. "Hi Cindy, this is my friend Lily. She needs someone to 2-inch heels to match her dress," Vicky explained. "Of course. Have a seat, and I'll measure her foot." "We have plenty of yellow options," Cindy said. "Can we just browse a bit first?" Lily asked. "Absolutely," Cindy replied. "Just let me know when you're ready to try some on." Vicky guided Lily to the ladies' dress shoe section. "What size are the ones you're wearing? There's no point in finding the perfect shoe if it doesn't fit." "I think these are a 9 with a W for women's," Lily said. "Actually, the W stands for wide," Vicky chuckled, which made Lily laugh too. They moved to the aisle marked with a big 9 overhead and began browsing the various styles and colors. Lily started to feel more at ease, enjoying the experience as they compared opinions on several pairs. Vicky jotted down the style numbers of the ones they liked, and surprisingly, there were only a couple they disagreed on. When the list reached 6, Vicky led Lily back to where Cindy was waiting. "We'll try these in a 9, but bring an 8.5 for the ones marked with a star," Vicky instructed Cindy. "An 8.5? These 9s fit fine," Lily protested. "Vanity, my dear girl. Some brands make their shoes a little larger because women prefer the flattery of a smaller size," Vicky explained. "Oh, this is different. I'm used to just grabbing my size off the shelf and going," Lily admitted. "And you're also accustomed to the simplicity of choosing between black, brown, and sneakers. But if you insist, we can see if they have any wingtips that would match that dress," Vicky teased. Still laughing, Cindy returned with a stack of boxes. The first pair were pumps with a broad heel and rounded toe. Lily tried them on and stood up to gauge how they felt, then smoothed down his skirt to see how they looked. He shook his head in disapproval as he looked to Vicky, who mirrored his reaction. The second pair was wedge sandals with 3 straps across the foot and 1 in the back, featuring 2-inch heels. They repeated the process, with both girls nodding yes. All 6 styles followed suit, with only 2 being rejected. Then Cindy opened another box. "I got these from the back, they just came in and haven't been put out yet," she said. They were the perfect shade of pastel yellow, featuring a white open-weave lattice across the top, open toe, and a wider 2.5-inch heel. Lily and Vicky both exclaimed, "These," at the same time as Lily did a couple of twirling dance steps in them, relishing the feel of the air-cushioned insoles. "Let me put them in the box for you," Cindy said. "I think I'll wear them," Lily replied, "so put the white ones in the box." Lily started toward the counter, but Vicky took his hand and led him in another direction. "We're not finished yet," she whispered in his ear. She led him past the shoe racks to a wall lined with purses in every shape, size, and color. "What about this one?" Lily asked, holding out his purse to Vicky. "It's mostly white, and you're mostly yellow," she explained, holding her own purse against her dress for him to see her point. "This is the joy of female shopping. Once you buy something, you need to ensure all your accessories coordinate," she continued. They examined several yellow purses and finally settled on a small pastel yellow one with a gold chain shoulder strap and gold beading. While Vicky browsed the wallets, Lily admired the purse. She returned with a flat yellow wallet featuring a gold clasp on one side and a strap with a snap on the other. She slid it into the new purse and checked it over. "It fits perfectly and still leaves room for your keys and makeup," she exclaimed. "Are we done yet?" Lily asked. "Heavens no! There's plenty more to look at, but let's check out something for your hair now," Vicky replied. She led him across the store to a trio of revolving racks filled with barrettes, bows, headbands, scrunchies, and other accessories he couldn't quite identify. He stood and watched as Vicky spun the racks, selecting several barrettes to show him. "This one is for today," she said, holding out one with a 2-inch yellow bow, "and these others will complement some of your other outfits." They made their way to the cashier's desk, and as Lily started to pay for their selections, Vicky held back the barrettes. When Lily reached for them again, Vicky said, "These are on me." With that taken care of, Vicky asked the clerk for a mirror, while Lily requested a hairbrush. "I don't have one," Lily replied. "Oh my God," Vicky exclaimed. She walked over to the counter, placed $2 and some change down, and said, "This is for a hairbrush." "Can you believe that, girl?" before heading back to the hair accessory display. She returned in an instant, laid down another $5, picked up the mirror, and told Cindy, "This is for your assistance, dear," before making her way back to where Lily stood. "What kind of girl leaves home without a hairbrush? Don't you know that hair is a girl's most important feature?" she remarked, adding, "Sit." Handing Lily the mirror, she said, "Watch this." She took the first inch of hair behind the spiral curl that framed Lily's cheek, separated it, and brushed it out. Then she did the same on the other side. Pulling them back, she clipped them to the back of Lily's head with a barrette. Lily immediately noticed the difference. His hair now looked more like the styles he saw every day and held most of it back from his face. She finished brushing out the rest of his hair, making it smooth again, and handed him the brush. "Don't leave home without it," she cautioned. "Thank you, this looks nice," Lily replied. As they gathered their bags, Vicky turned to Cindy and said, "We might be back," and they headed out to the car, with Vicky leading the way. "Aren't you enjoying this?" she asked Lily. "Well, trying on so many shoes was different and fun, I guess, and these are easier to walk in than the ones I wore to church," Lily admitted. "One more chance," she said, taking Lily's arm and directing him toward just girls. Lily felt a sense of dread as he recalled what had happened there just a few nights ago. He really didn't want to go in and face Fiona, who had taken such delight in humiliating him on Friday. Vicky sensed his unease. "What's the matter, sweetheart?" "Just bad memories of how your sister treated me in there before," Lily confessed. "I promise you'll only have good times this time, sweetie." "She may be my older sister, but I can handle her if I need to," Vicky assured him. Lily stopped in his tracks, stepping away from Vicky. He had never heard her speak like that, even to Alan. "It's okay, honey. I just want you to know that no one will mess with your pretty little head unless you want them to when you're with me, all right?" Vicky said, holding his hands to comfort him. It took a moment for Lily's trembling to subside, and he nodded toward the store. He wasn't ready for this trip to end yet. Vicky had been kinder to him than anyone else, maybe except his mother. He could tell by the fire in her eyes that her temper, hidden beneath that red hair, could be fierce if provoked. He felt safe with her, she would protect him. As they entered the store and glanced around, he noticed the 30 or so girls already their turn to look at them. They were indeed the prettiest girls in the shop. A couple of girls greeted Vicky as she approached the counter, and she returned the greeting. When she reached the counter, Fiona came over. "Could you do me a favor and put our purses up while we shop?" Vicky asked. "We might need both hands today." "I'm sorry I was rude to you the other day," Fiona said to Lily. "Will you please forgive me?" "Okay," was all Lily could manage. He realized she was under some kind of directive to behave, and while she seemed to enjoy teasing him, she was doing what she had been instructed. "The rules are simple this time. You find things you'd like to see me wear, and I'll do the same, then we'll try them on together, okay?" Vicky said. That brought a smile to Lily's face, and he felt himself relax a bit. They moved over to the casual section, where he had never ventured before, and began browsing the displays. High on the wall, on foam half-shapes, he spotted a sundress adorned with red gardenias on a white background, featuring a low-cut neckline and elastic at the neckline and puffy sleeves. It had several rows of elastic sewn into the waistband. "I want that one," he said, pointing to the dress. "Okay," Vicky replied. "Let's find one for you to try." "Do you have a swimsuit?" she asked. "Yeah, but Mom put it in the box with the rest of my clothes," he explained. "No, silly, one with a top to cover those," she said, gesturing to his chest. "No," he replied. "Do I need one?" "If you want to swim with me at the Y, you do. They frown upon topless women there," she said. "Oh," he said. "Please relax," she urged. "It'll be a lot more fun for both of us if you do." "I'm trying," he said. "I'm just so confused, and if you know anything about my last 2 days, you'll understand. I know a lot more than you think. If you have fun here, just for me, I'll take you to my special place," she whispered enticingly. That was, without a doubt, the best offer he had received in his young life, and despite feeling dazed, what could he say? They browsed through racks of clothes, with Fiona following behind, holding the items Lily selected for Vicky in one arm and the ones Vicky picked for Lily in the other. After choosing 4 matching swimsuits, Vicky said to Lily, "Let's find a dressing room before she collapses," nodding toward Fiona. They made their way to the far side of the store and took the large dressing room typically reserved for mothers assisting their daughters with prom dress selections. One wall featured 8 hooks, another had a bench with mirrors above it, and the third, as well as the back of the door, were completely mirrored. Fiona handed them each a couple of outfits and said, "Only 3 items allowed in a dressing room at a time." "Only 2 broken arms at a time, sis, but there are 2 more waiting," Vicky joked. Fiona handed them the rest of the outfits, and they filled the hooks until they couldn't hold anymore. Lily felt a bit anxious, unsure of what to do, but Vicky was already stepping out of her dress. "I need help," Lily said. "I can't reach the zipper with this corset on." "They really do make it difficult to move," Vicky replied, unzipping Lily's dress and sliding the sleeves off his arms. The dress fell to the floor, and Lily figured he should do as Vicky had done and step over it. Vicky then took off her slip, and he stood there, transfixed by the sight of the beautiful girl in front of him, clad only in her bra, panties, and garter, all in Kelly green satin. After allowing him a moment to admire her, she said, "Your turn, show me what you've got, girl." Lily took off his slip and posed for her in his bra, corset, and panties. The gaff was visible beneath the sheer fabric of the pale yellow panties. "Fiona!" Vicky called out. "Right here," Fiona answered. Vicky unlatched the door and stepped out. "I need a gaff, the number 8 skin tone would be great." "Drop your drawers, girl," she instructed Lily when she returned. "My dumb sister sold you that black gaff, didn't she remarked. "2 of them," Lily replied. "Well, she just got you a new one that won't show," Vicky said. When Fiona knocked on the door again and Vicky took the gaff from her, she turned back to Lily. "Thought I told you to take those off." "Well, I was waiting until your sister left," Lily lied. "Nonsense. You've planned for years to introduce me to Wee Willie, so now it's time," she teased. Slowly, he removed his panties, feeling embarrassed, but thinking, why? "More girls have seen me naked in the last 2 days than in my entire life, including my cousins and my aunt. Why does it bother me to have Vicky see me?" Vicky seemed to read his mind and leaned in, giving him a gentle kiss on the lips. Such encouragement couldn't be ignored, and it sent a rush of confidence through him. He took off the gaff, and Vicky wrapped her hand around his semi-erect penis. "Hi, Willie, I hope to get to know you much better," she said playfully, shaking it as if shaking hands. "Be right back, don't go anywhere," she said, leaving the room still in just her underwear. Girls don't seem to mind running around like that in front of each other, he thought. A guy wouldn't dare do that in a men's store or even a locker room. "Let's fix that," she said, taking a cloth out of a small water bucket and wrapping it around his member. That did the trick. "Good," she said as it shrank. "I wouldn't want the gaff to hurt him now." He quickly slipped on the gaff and adjusted it, but Vicky started to adjust it again after he finished. "Like this makes it look like you have a mound," she instructed. He looked in the mirror. It now resembled the images he'd seen in magazines, an appealing mound on top with a cleft between 2 lips, and the gaff was nearly invisible. As he gazed into the mirror, he realized the girl staring back at him had a feminine appearance down below. He reached for the panties again, but Vicky handed him the swimsuit bottom instead. He slipped it on and studied his reflection closely. There was no sign of a penis, just a shapely figure in the front of the suit. Vicky approached from behind and removed his bra. She helped him into the top, positioning it so he could see his reflection from 3 angles at once. While he examined the suit in the mirror, he couldn't help but notice Vicky taking off her bra and panties, then putting on a matching swimsuit. She adjusted the elastic on her thighs, checked her reflection, then turned to him and pulled him into her arms, kissing him. "You're very pretty, sweetie," she said. "So are you," he replied, initiating a kiss for the first time. She tried on the red sundress over her swimsuit to see if it would work as a cover-up while Lily slipped into the halter-top sundress she had chosen for him. They added these to the to-buy pile alongside the swimsuits and tried on 4 more outfits each. Vicky selected a pale blue shirtwaist dress with a rope belt and an ankle-length black pleated skirt for Lily, while he chose a green jumper-style dress for her and a form-fitting white sheath dress. After helping each other into their original outfits, they gathered their selections to head to the checkout. Lily was about to pick up the other garments, but Vicky assured him that Fiona would handle that, so they made their way to the counter. Fiona noticed them approaching and greeted them. After looking over their choices, she commented on how lovely they were. We also need 2 size 8 St. Cathy skirts, for 36B 18-hour bras, for white 36 blouses, and 5 white nylon briefs in size 5. As she pulled out their purses, Lily paid for the school clothes and Vicky's outfits, while Vicky took care of Lily's, ensuring she got her employee discount on both transactions. With their arms loaded with bags, they headed back to the parking lot and the car. "You seem to enjoy that a lot more once you got into it," Vicky remarked. "Well, trying on so many shoes was different and fun, I guess, and these are easier to walk in than the ones I wore to church," Lily replied. "One more chance," she said, taking Lily's arm as they headed toward Just Girls. Lily felt a sense of foreboding as memories of his previous experience there surfaced. He really didn't want to face Fiona, who had taken such pleasure in humiliating him on Friday. Vicky noticed his unease. "What's the matter, sweetheart?" "Just bad memories of how your sister treated me last time," Lily admitted. "I promise you'll have a good time this time." "She may be my older sister, but I can handle her if I need to," Vicky reassured him. Lily hesitated and stepped away from Vicky. He had never heard her speak like that, even to Alan. "It's okay, honey. I just want you to know that no one will mess with your pretty little head when you're with me, all right?" Vicky said, gently holding his hands to comfort him. It took a moment for Lily's anxiety to ease, but he eventually nodded toward the store. He wasn't ready for this outing to end yet. Vicky had been kinder to him than anyone else in his life, aside from his mother. He could sense the fire in her eyes, indicating that her temper could be fierce if provoked, but he felt safe with her. She would protect him. As they entered the store, Lily noticed the 30 or so girls already inside turn to look at them. They truly were the prettiest girls in the shop. A couple of girls greeted Vicky as they approached the counter, and she responded warmly. When they reached the counter, Fiona approached them. "Could you do me a favor and put our purses up while we shop?" Vicky asked. "We might need both hands today." "I'm sorry for being rude the other day," Fiona said to Lily. "Will you please forgive me?" "Okay," was all Lily could manage to say. He realized she was likely following orders to behave, and although she seemed to enjoy teasing him, she was ultimately doing her job. "The rules are simple this time. You find things you'd like to see me wear, and I'll do the same for you. Then we'll try them on together. Sound good?" Vicky said. That made Lily smile, and he began to relax a bit. They headed over to the casual side of the store, where Lily had never been before, and began exploring the displays. High on the wall, on foam half-shapes, was a sundress adorned with red gardenias on a white background, featuring a low-cut neckline and elastic at the neckline and puffy sleeves. It also had multiple rows of elastic sewn into the waistband. "I want that one," Lily said, pointing to the dress. "All right," Vicky said. "Let's find one for you to try on." "Do you have a swimsuit?" "Yeah, but Mom packed it in the box with the rest of my clothes," he said. "No, silly, one with a top to cover those," she said, indicating his breasts. "No," he replied. "Do I need one?" "If you want to swim with me at the Y, you do. They frown on topless women there," Vicky said. "Oh," he replied. "Just relax. It will be much more fun for both of us if you do," she encouraged. "I'm trying," he said. "I'm just so confused, and if you know anything about my last 2 days, you'll understand. I know a lot more than you think. If you have fun here, I promise to take you to my special place," she said in a sultry whisper. "Not you, Beth. Alan is way over there and can't hear us, so feel free to say what you want," Vicky said. "Let's try again. What's your opinion on Vicky's sister, Fiona?" "I'm not sure, Alice. She seems okay, but she definitely has a mean streak," Lily replied. "Tell me more, Beth." "Well, Alice, I was in her store when Alan's mother brought him in to make him dress like a girl. She seemed to go out of her way to make sure the other girls in the shop saw him in just his underwear as much as possible, and that everyone knew he was a boy doing this. And what was Alan doing, Beth? He was crying his eyes out, Alice. Do you think she had some motivation for this, Beth? Maybe, Alice. Alan wasn't very nice to her or her sister at times. Know what I think, Beth? I think Alan is a very lonely and miserable boy. I believe he pulls pranks for attention and acts maliciously to make others feel the same pain he does inside. Does he have any friends? He has a couple of friends he hangs out with when his mom throws him out of the house for a while, Alice. No close friends, no girlfriends. What do you think he does with his time, then, Beth? Mostly he sits in his den playing computer games or surfing the internet, Alice replied. Why do you think his mother put him in dresses, Beth? I think it was to get revenge, but mostly I think his Aunt May convinced her to do it because she hates men. Whatever gave you that impression, Beth? I've overheard her talking to Mom about how she'd like Mom to put the little sissy in a skirt and send him to St. Catherine's so she could turn him into the lady he should be because he'll never make a decent man. Is that all she said, Beth? No. She would tell Mom that his features and build are much more suited to femininity than masculinity, and that some neighbors and shopkeepers wished she would turn Alan over to May for a personality transplant. Well, Beth, I've seen Alan and I've seen Lily. I can tell you one thing May was right about. Lily is a very beautiful girl, and Alan's features, mannerisms, and gestures suit her much better than they do him. What do you think? With the makeup and everything, she really is a convincing girl. She even surprised me with how good she turned out. So you think Lily is pretty, Beth? Oh yes, Alice. There's no denying it. Everybody who meets her tells either her or her mother that. Do you think it's had any effect on her personality? It's hard to be mean when someone compliments you like that, isn't it, Alice? So you think Lily doesn't really hate being a girl, huh, Beth? At first, she did. She was trying to figure out a way to run away or something, but then Saturday morning something seemed to snap in her brain when her mom made her cousins back off and took her out of diapers. Her mom put her in diapers? Worse than that. Her mom let her 12-year-old cousin put her in diapers and a baby dress and parade her down the street. Well, Beth, I'm picking up something interesting from your conversation. Sometimes you refer to Lily as he, and sometimes as she. Tell me about that. That's what I mean. Something seemed to snap. I'm not sure when exactly, whether it was how nicely Mrs. Stewart treated her or the first time she saw herself with real makeup instead of the amateurish job her cousins did, or when she saw the look in Vicky's eyes when they first met. You mean she started thinking of herself as a girl from then on? Not all the time. Before that, when someone called her, it would make her bristle. But when Vicky did it, it somehow felt natural. I can't really explain it. I think I understand, Beth. Would you like another glass of wine? Yes, please. That stuff is good. Lily watched as Vicky took the empty glasses across the room to the bar, noticing several other customers watching intently. On her way back with the drinks, Vicky smiled at him and walked a bit more flirtatiously, causing the other patrons to turn back to their conversations. There it is again, Lily thought. I called myself her in my mind and Vicky's girlfriend. I'll have to ask her about that, she seems to know so much. When Vicky returned to the table and set the drinks down, Lily stood up and kissed her. Vicky quickly finished placing the drinks down and wrapped her arms around Lily's waist, returning the kiss. I think I love you, Vicky, Lily said as they released each other and sat back down. I know you do, and have for a while, Vicky replied. No, I mean Lily loves you, not Alan, Lily clarified. Oh. Tell me about it, Vicky prompted. I'm not used to talking much, especially about my thoughts or feelings, so you'll have to bear with me, okay? Just take your time and share with me, my lovely Lily, Vicky replied. That's exactly it. When you were getting our drinks and other people were watching you, I thought, I'm her girlfriend, so back off, not her boyfriend, her girlfriend, Lily explained. Does that make sense to you? It makes perfect sense, sweet one. You are my girlfriend, and Alan is not my boyfriend, Vicky affirmed. Then I wish I could stay like this and never go back to being Alan, Lily said. Oh, but you can, Vicky responded. What do you mean? Do you think my mom would allow me to stay a girl if I wanted to? Lily asked. I think it can be arranged, Vicky replied. Really? Lily said, surprised. You mentioned that Aunt May wanted to turn you into the girl you should have been, right? Vicky inquired. Yes, a few months ago, but Mom told her I wasn't ready for that yet, Lily admitted. Do you really want to stay a girl? Vicky pressed. If that's what it takes to be with you, then yes. It also makes me feel different inside, but I can't quite explain it, Lily said. That's what it takes to be with me. You might think I'm a pervert or something, but I can't help being attracted to a girl with a cock, Vicky admitted. You really like boys who wear dresses, don't you? Lily asked. No, I don't. A boy in a dress is still a boy. A girl with a cock, or a she-male, is something different, and you are very close to becoming one, Vicky explained. You lost me somewhere along the way, Lily said, perplexed. That's okay. If it happens, you'll understand. If it doesn't, well, it was worth a try, Vicky said. The most important thing is to decide if you truly want to be a girl permanently. I don't think I really know. If you put it that way, I mean, a week ago, I would have been really angry to be called a sissy. Yesterday, when Tracy called me her sissy baby, I wanted to hit her. But today, before church, when Zoe said I was the prettiest girl of the bunch, I felt proud, Lily reflected. There's a difference, Vicky explained. When Tracy meant that in a derogatory way, it was like all the times at school when the boys called you a sissy or a fag or a girl in drag. They intended to hurt you. But when Zoe, your mom, or I say you're pretty, we're genuinely complimenting your appearance. If one of the mean boys recognized you now, they'd probably still call you that, and it would hurt a bit. I know. I still can't get over how feminine I look, even to myself. At church, some of the boys who've always been mean to me didn't even recognize me. You could see it in the way they looked at me, the same way they looked at the other girls, Lily said. You're also acting much more feminine today than you did yesterday. That's important, becoming the girl instead of just pretending to be one. Today, it feels more natural to you, and I think in a few weeks, you'd have to work hard to act like a boy, Vicky said. Now, drink up, lass, or the mall will close before we get there. As they prepared to leave, Mike, the bartender, waved them over. I'm always happy to see a pretty girl in here, Lily. The clientele may be gay, but I'm not, and you're always welcome when I'm here. Vicky pretended to bristle. Can't you see she's taken? The prettiest ones always seem to turn out gay, just like Miss Vicky here, Mike remarked. I'm sure you'll see more of me, Lily said, smiling. It was nice to meet you. They got into the car and headed for the mall, both feeling a little better than before. After a brief silence, Vicky broke the quiet. You really don't care much for your Aunt May, do you? I don't think she likes boys at all, Lily replied. Let me share a different perspective about your aunt. I was one of her students for 3 years and worked at St. Kathy's as a monitor and Miss May's assistant for 4 summers after 7th grade. During my time there, she could always tell which of the special girls would stay female, revert to being male, or become transvestites. She was never wrong. Your name came up a few times, and she mentioned that your biggest challenge was not realizing you were a girl trapped in a boy's body. She's truly a good woman, and I like her a lot, but let me explain my story so you can understand why. My parents enrolled me in the summer class after 5th grade, hoping St. Kathy's could help me, and they could barely afford the $1,000 tuition, so I knew they were serious. I was older than most 6th graders because I had failed 2nd and 4th grades and almost failed 5th. On my first day at the school, I was called to the office just before school ended. I was terrified, wondering what I had done wrong, or if my previous teachers were right about me being too stupid to be there. When I arrived, she sat me down and told me I had a learning disability called dyslexia that was causing my academic struggles. She assured me that if I promised to work hard and stay 2 hours after school every day, she could arrange for a teacher from the university to help me. I agreed to do my best, and she walked me home to speak with my parents. She explained that the special tutor would cost the school $50 an hour, totaling $2,000 for the 4-week session, but St. Catherine's would cover it as long as I completed the classes, otherwise, my parents would be responsible for the bill. Naturally, I finished the course and maintained honor roll status for the rest of my schooling. I received a scholarship to St. Leo's for finishing at the top of my class in 8th grade and was named valedictorian, which earned me a scholarship for university this fall. Without your aunt's support, I would have likely been an 8th grade dropout with no future. Since then, she has always taken an interest in my progress, helping me in every way she could, like securing a hardship grant for Fiona so she could be with me at St. Leo's and offering me summer jobs at St. Catherine's that are usually reserved for teachers' children. After 7 years in a public elementary school where I was told how stupid I was, just one day at St. Catherine's gave me the help I needed. You'll never convince me that she's evil. Gosh, I had no idea. I thought you were always smart, Lily remarked. I was always smart, I just struggled with reading because everything looked backward and didn't make sense, Vicky replied. By this time, they had reached the mall entrance, and Vicky searched for a parking spot near the theater. As they entered the mall, they attracted their share of glances and stares. After checking the start times for the movies, they agreed on a romantic comedy that left them just over an hour to shop. A month ago, Alan would have dismissed it as a chick flick and sought out an action movie, but now he'd watch a film about grass growing as long as he was with Vicky. As they ventured into the center of the mall, they were met with wolf whistles and shouted invitations from the boys hanging out there. Don't even look back at them, or they'll swarm over here like flies, Vicky cautioned. Lily smiled, finding it amusing to hear the pretty girl curse and noticing her freckles darkening. Vicky led Lily to a jewelry store, where they admired the window display. Would you do something very special for me, my sweet? Vicky asked. Like what? Lily replied. Get your ears pierced. It would complete the look and mean a lot to me, Vicky said. I don't know about that, it might hurt, and I'd have holes in my ears forever, Lily said hesitantly. Pretty please, for me? Vicky pressed, giving Lily her best puppy look. It won't hurt, and then I could give you some special earrings. Okay, just for you. But what will my mom think? Lily questioned. I bet she'll approve once she sees how great it looks, Vicky replied, giving Lily a light kiss on the cheek and leading him into the store. At the earring display, a clerk approached to assist them. We'd like 2 sets of the small heart-shaped earrings, Vicky said, pointing to the display, and she needs her ears pierced so she can wear them. Let me check, it's getting late, and I'm not sure the manager will do a piercing now, the young man said as he went into the back room. A few minutes later, the clerk returned and motioned for them to follow him. He led them to a small room and informed them the manager would be there shortly. Hi, ladies, which of you needs to be pierced today? The manager asked. Lily, Vicky said, pointing. She's always been too scared to do it. Let me share a different perspective about your aunt. I was one of her students for 3 years and spent summers working at St. Kathy's as a monitor and Miss May's assistant after 7th grade. During that time, she could always tell which of the special girls would remain girls, revert to being boys, or become transvestites. She was never wrong. Your name came up a few times, and she noted that your biggest challenge was not recognizing you were a girl trapped in a boy's body. She's genuinely a good woman, and I have a lot of respect for her. Let me explain why. My parents enrolled me in the summer class after 5th grade, hoping St. Kathy's could help me, and they barely managed to afford the $1,000 tuition, which showed how serious they were. I was older than most 6th graders because I had failed 2nd and 4th grades and almost failed 5th. On my first day, I was called to the office right before school ended. I was terrified, worried about what I had done wrong, or whether my previous teachers were right about me being too stupid to be there. When I arrived, she sat me down and told me I had a learning disability called dyslexia that was causing my academic struggles. She assured me that if I promised to work hard and stay 2 hours after school every day, she could arrange for a university tutor to help me. I agreed, and she walked me home to speak with my parents. She explained that the special tutor would cost the school $50 an hour, totaling $2,000 for the 4-week session, but St. Catherine's would cover it as long as I completed the classes, otherwise, my parents would be responsible for the bill. Naturally, I finished the course and maintained honor roll status for the rest of my schooling. I received a scholarship to St. Leo's for finishing at the top of my class in 8th grade and was named valedictorian, which earned me a scholarship for university this fall. Without your aunt's support, I would have likely been an 8th grade dropout with no future. Since then, she has always taken an interest in my progress, helping me in every way she could, like securing a hardship grant for Fiona so she could be with me at St. Leo's and offering me summer jobs at St. Catherine's that are usually reserved for teachers' children. After 7 years in a public elementary school where I was told how stupid I was, just one day at St. Catherine's gave me the help I needed. You'll never convince me she's evil. Gosh, I didn't know that. I thought you were always smart, Lily said. I was always smart, I just struggled with reading because everything looked backward and didn't make sense, Vicky replied. By that point, they had arrived at the mall entrance, and Vicky searched for a parking spot near the theater. As they entered the mall, they drew their fair share of glances and stares. After checking the start times for the movies, they agreed on a romantic comedy that left them with just over an hour to shop. A month ago, Alan would have called it a chick flick and sought out an action movie, but now he'd watch a film about grass growing as long as he was with Vicky. As they made their way to the center of the mall, they were met with wolf whistles and shouts from the boys loitering there. Don't even look at them, or they'll swarm over here like flies, Vicky cautioned. Lily smiled, finding it amusing to hear the pretty girl curse while noticing her freckles deepening. Vicky led Lily to a jewelry store where they admired the window display. Would you do something very special for me, my sweet? Vicky asked. Like what? Lily replied. Get your ears pierced. It would complete the look and mean a lot to me, Vicky said. I don't know, it might hurt, and I'd have holes in my ears forever, Lily said hesitantly. Pretty please, for me? Vicky pressed, giving Lily her best puppy look. It won't hurt, and then I could give you some special earrings. Okay, just for you. But what will my mom think? Lily questioned. I bet she'll approve when she sees how great it looks, Vicky replied, giving Lily a light kiss on the cheek before leading him into the store. At the earring display, a clerk approached to assist them. We'd like 2 sets of the small heart-shaped earrings, Vicky said, pointing to the display, and she needs her ears pierced so she can wear them. Let me check, it's getting late, and I'm not sure the manager will do a piercing now, the young man said as he went into the back room. A few minutes later, the clerk returned and motioned for them to follow him. He led them to a small room and informed them that the manager would be there shortly. Hi, ladies, which of you needs to be pierced today? The manager asked. Lily, Vicky said, pointing. She's always been too scared to do it. Well, Lily, I'm George, and you won't feel a thing. I'll apply a topical anesthetic to your lobes, measure them, and use the piercing gun. If you feel anything, you can kick me in the shin when I'm done, okay? He said. Lily nodded, and he applied some numbing cream to her ears, instructing her to give it 5 minutes to take effect before leaving the room. See? It won't be bad, sweetie. I'll hold your hand through the whole thing, Vicky said, planting another small kiss on Lily's cheek. A few minutes later, George returned, carrying 2 small jewelry boxes. He opened one and showed the girls. These are the ones you wanted, right? He asked, and both girls nodded. He pinched Lily's earlobe, and getting no response, said, I think we're ready now. He measured her earlobes and marked tiny red dots on each before lining up the gun with the dots. It was over before Lily even had a chance to kick him. He then carefully inserted the posts and secured the backs. "All done," he said. "May I ask you both something?" Vicky and Lily both nodded. "We close in 15 minutes, and Jeff, the clerk, and I were wondering if you girls would like to join us at the lounge outside the mall for a drink or two," he asked. "We'd love to, but we already bought tickets to the theater for 5:10, Vicky replied, fibbing. "We'll reimburse you for them, it would be worth it to get to know two such pretty girls," he pressed. "I think we'll see the movie, but Lily and I will keep you in mind when we shop for matching engagement rings," Vicky said, leaning in to give Lily a kiss on the lips. "Oh, that explains the matching earrings, but it was worth a shot," he said as they gathered their things and headed back to the main store. "My treat, love," Vicky said as she paid for the jewelry and the piercing. Lily smiled at her reflection in the mirror on the counter. They exited the store, leaving behind two men shaking their heads and mumbling about lesbians. "How did you like getting hit on for the first time?" Vicky asked as they strolled down the mall. "It was flattering, but I don't think I'm ready for a date with a man," Lily replied, intertwining her fingers with Vicky's. "Never say never," Vicky said. Lily looked puzzled but chose to let it go as they got in line for their tickets, still holding hands. The line was a bit long, and the snack bar was crowded, so they entered the theater just as the previews were starting. They found two seats together and settled in to watch the movie, with Vicky's arm around Lily's waist and Lily's arm draped over her shoulders. They exchanged kisses and enjoyed the film, occasionally interrupted by the sounds of disgust from a couple behind them whenever they kissed. When the lights came back up, they waited for most of the theater to clear before making their way out. They located their car and climbed in, sharing another kiss. "It's only 7:30, and we have to pass my special place to get home." "Are you in a hurry?" Vicky asked. Lily, not wanting the day to end, replied, "Okay, honey, I could use another glass of wine." They arrived at the bar and went inside, where Mike waved at them just as before, but there were many more patrons this time. Lily felt a bit overwhelmed as she scanned the large room filled with things she had never encountered before. A waitress approached to seat them. She was tall, around 6 feet 3 inches or 4 inch, with a large chest, small waist, and narrow hips, wearing one of the maid outfits Vicky had described earlier. It was black with a white lace front and white satin trim, with a short skirt that barely covered her hips, held up by layers of crinkly petticoat. Her black fishnet stockings adorned her hairy legs, and she wore black patent shoes with 6-inch heels and 2 platforms. As she led them to an empty table, she walked with an exaggerated wiggle that almost made Lily laugh. Once they were seated, she noted their order with a pad that looked tiny in her large hands, an Irish whiskey and water for Vicky, and a Harvey Wallbanger for Lily. As the waitress minced her way back to the bar, Icky leaned toward Lily. "Do you know what a Wallbanger is, honey?" "No, but it's the only drink I've heard of," Lily admitted. "Okay, but you only get one, after that, it's wine for you," Vicky replied. "Why?" Lily asked. "2 of those, and I'll have to load you onto the beer cart to get you out of here," Vicky laughed, envisioning the scene. "This place is pretty strange at night, isn't it?" Lily remarked once Vicky stopped giggling. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Vicky asked. "Men kissing men, women kissing women, that line of guys in dresses sitting at the bar like they're waiting to get picked up, and our waitress." "Let me clarify. The waitress, Michael or Michelle, is an investment banker downtown. He spends the week working and taking care of his wife and 3 kids, but on weekend nights he works here to unwind. Half the girls at the bar are waiting to get picked up, but the other half are straight and come here because it's a safe place for men to dress like that. This is a gay bar, so the couples are, well, gay. Does that help?" "It's just so strange," Lily replied. "Think this is strange now?" "Just wait 5 minutes for the show to start," Vicky said. When their drinks arrived, they sat holding hands as Vicky decided to let Lily take everything in and relax. The music began, and a performer stepped onto the stage dressed in a red vinyl slicker, red stockings, platform heels, and a red headband with devil horns perched on her waist-length blonde hair. She danced and strutted for a few minutes before moving into the audience, which erupted in cheers. People lifted her skirt, stuffing money into her panties and bra, while showering her with kisses, hugs, and applause that synced with her movements. Lily had never witnessed anything like it before. It took several minutes and 3 songs for her to make her way to the center of the room where they were seated. Vicky got up, kissed the performer, and slipped money into her bra. It was quite a sight. Vicky was barely over 5 feet tall even in heels, while this girl towered at least 7 feet in hers. The dancer eventually made her way to the front of the room and ended her performance dancing on the bar for the crowd of crossdressers who craned their necks to get a glimpse under her skirt. Michael and another waitress of similar height helped her down from the bar once the music stopped, and Michael playfully tossed her over his shoulder, giving her exposed red vinyl panties a gentle spank as he carried her back to the stage, eliciting laughter and applause from the audience. She performed several exaggerated curtsies before disappearing behind the curtain, only to be replaced by another girl in a long evening gown with a front slit that reached her crotch. The pattern continued as one dancer after another strutted their stuff for the crowd. Eventually, all the dancers came out together, bowing for the audience and reminding them that the second show would start at 11. Vicky leaned over to Lily, raising her voice to be heard over the crowd. "We should get going, it's after 10, and tomorrow is a school day for my special girl." The wallbanger and 2 glasses of wine had started to take effect, leaving Lily a bit unsteady as she tried to navigate through the crowd with Vicky. "We need to sober you up a little, or your mother will think I plied you with alcohol and took advantage of you," Vicky said as they stepped into the parking lot. The fresh air felt good after the smoky bar, and the cool evening breeze helped Lily regain her composure. Vicky handed her a small bottle of mouthwash to freshen her breath as they headed home. The porch light was on, and Lily could see his mother's silhouette in the window as they pulled up. Lily was able to walk straight again, so they retrieved their bags from the car and made their way to the door. It opened without them knocking, and they stepped inside. "From the looks of you, it seems you celebrated a successful shopping trip at one of the pubs," Gert remarked as they placed the bags on the couch. "You're not angry, are you, Mom?" Lily asked, giving her mother an unexpected kiss on the cheek. "No, but a mother can't help but worry when her daughter is late coming back from her first date," she said, scanning them both. "I've got coffee brewing, and Vicky should have some before she drives any further." "Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry about the hour, but we were having so much fun that neither of us wanted it to end," Vicky explained, adding that Lily had her first taste of the devil's nectar. "Tell me all about it, then we'll check out what you bought," Gert said as she headed for the kitchen. She paused when she noticed the hearts dangling from Lily's ears. "Oh my," she added, smiling. Over coffee, Lily and Vicky, with Vicky mostly leading the conversation, recounted their day, carefully omitting details about the nature of the club they had visited and the people in it. Gert erupted in giggles when they mentioned George mistaking them for a couple of lesbians. She was also amazed when Vicky stated that there hadn't been any hint of gender recognition throughout the day, as she had expected Lily to slip up somewhere. After a flurry of questions about the day and a showcase of the new clothes, Gert declared that one young lady needed to be in class in 8 hours. They kissed goodnight at the door, with Vicky promising to meet Lily at school when it let out at 2:30 and walk her home. Lily watched to ensure Vicky got to her car safely before kissing her mother's cheek and heading to bed. Victoria's story. Victor Linham O'Malley was a tiny baby at birth, measuring just 16 inches and weighing 5 pounds. When he was 3 months old, his mother grew concerned because he wasn't gaining weight or growing, despite having a hearty appetite. The doctor examined him and explained that his accelerated metabolism was normal for girls, as nature runs a test on their reproductive systems, but it could also occur in boys. He advised her to keep an eye on him, noting that he appeared to be perfectly healthy. Thus continued Victor's early years. He was healthy, just not growing much. This became an issue when he turned 5 and it was time for him to enter the world. When his mother took him to enroll in kindergarten, she handed the clerk his birth certificate and immunization records. The clerk reviewed them and asked where the child was. When his mother pointed to him, the clerk said, "She's a 3-year-old, where's Victor?" "But I am Victor," he protested. "All right, have it your way, but he needs to know his ABCs and how to count to 10 to start kindergarten." Victor was familiar with all the letters of the alphabet, just not the correct order, and the same went for his numbers. His mother was advised to homeschool him for the year and bring him back next year. She worked with him diligently, hoping he would grow a bit before then. When they returned to enroll him that fall, he had grown to a whopping 32 inches tall and weighed 25 pounds, about the size of the average 3-year-old. The school had no choice but to admit him, as state law mandated that every 6-year-old must attend school. The next shortest child in his class was a girl who would turn 5 at the end of the month and was only 4 inches taller than him. With his bright red hair, alabaster complexion, and delicate features, he was frequently mistaken for a girl during that year and the next. As often happens with vulnerable children, he became a target for bullies, both male and female. By the middle of his kindergarten year, he wasn't allowed outside for recess with the other grades because he was beaten up daily. The boys shunned him for looking like a girl, while the girls rejected him for acting like a boy. He struggled academically and was perceived by teachers and peers as lacking intelligence.